Alright, welcome back to the garage, kiddos. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a slab pot. Now when we made coil pots, I told you that those were ideal for making organic forms, those kind of flowy, wavy, natural looking forms. Slab pots are ideal for making geometric forms. Those are forms that have a name essentially, so a cylinder, a cone, a cube, a dodecahedron. Those are all geometric forms. They're more regular, more man-made, I guess, so less organic, less found in nature. We're specifically going to be doing a soft slab pot today, and I'm just going to show you one form, but I'm going to show you several things you can make with it. So we're going to be making a cylinder, and a cylinder can then be used to make other things. You know, you can make it functional like a mug, or make it sculptural or other things. So basically, soft slab, the difference between a soft slab and a hard slab pot are, with soft slabs, you manipulate the form while it's still soft. With hard slabs, you make all the sides of it, like if it's a cube, you would make 6 squares. You let them harden up just a little bit so that they don't slump onto themselves, and then you build it. So we'll be doing that one later on down the line. So today, soft slabs. So I'm going to put the camera up in the rafters. Not up at all. All right, trying to get that. Hopefully that doesn't fall on my head. And maybe if I move over a little bit. All right, I'm going to grab some more clay. Now one issue that people tend to have is if the clay is a little bit on the wet side, which this is the clay will stick to the rolling pin, and that's not ideal. So I'm going to wedge this before I start. So I'm going to show you how to keep it from sticking to the rolling pin. First off, I'm not just going to put this down here and just start rolling over the lump like that. It's definitely going to stick. I want to do as much of the flattening as possible by hand. Ooh, this clay's cold. It's so cold in here. I'm going to turn the heater on, but then you wouldn't be able to hear my voice. This is such a funny view. Alright, so I've patted it into a ball, and now I'm just going to clap it back and forth in my hands. When this goes on in the classroom, and I've got 20 people doing this, I like to pretend they're applauding for me. Oh, thank you, you're too kind. Oh, no, please stop. I'm embarrassed. All right, so you can see I'm turning it a little bit each time, about an 1/8 of a turn each time. And I'm moving it around in my hands too. I don't want to just stay in the center. I want to go to the edges sometimes. Okay, going back and forth, keeping it as even as possible. Now, there's a little bit of a touch to this. There's a little bit of a kind of getting a feel for it. Once it's as thick as I can handle essentially by hand, because if it gets too big, it's going to be flopping all over the place and it's going to be unwieldy. So I'm going to flop it onto the table. See how that stretched it out a little bit? Turn it, do the same thing, flop and flop and flop. What fun. Now I'm getting ready to the point where I can start rolling it with a rolling pin. Now at school I have thin strips of wood that are 1/4 inch thick for making 1/4 inch thick slabs, but I forgot to leave one at home. So I'm going to be using these. These are about 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little bit thinner. Just slabs of particle board. And I put those on either side, close enough that the edge of the roller is rolling on top of it. That way when I roll this, it can't go any thinner than that, and the whole slab is going to be even. And I'm going to start in the center and roll outwards. And sometimes you got to pick it up and turn it over to continue. So it's sticking to the work surface. There we go. How's that sound? That squeaky rolling pin. So now, because it's not getting any flatter than this, that tells me that the whole thing is the same thickness as these 2 boards. Nice thin, even walls. Now, we also have cardboard tubes at school that I forgot to bring one home, and I couldn't find one around the house. A paper towel tube would be too thin. I couldn't find any cardboard tubes that work, but found this can of pool chemicals. This should do. And I'm going to wrap it in newspaper. And then people tend to ask me at this point for tape. They want to tape it on here. But that's a bad idea, and I'll show you later why it's a bad idea. You want this to be neatly wrapped around it, kind of tight, so you don't have wrinkles. Oh, but before I do that, I'm going to smooth this side a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to pick it up and flip it over and smooth the other side. And smoothing it down compresses a little bit and kind of relaxes any internal tension in there. You notice when I picked it up, it bent. If I lay it flat again, there's clay memory. Some of those particles shifted. They're going to want to go back to that position as it's drying. So the less you bend it before you shape it, the better. So I'm just going to take and I don't want this canvas texture either. So I'm going to take a damp, what's this called? Sponge. And just lightly dampen the surface. And I'm going to take this tool. It's very important that you have an Amazon gift card that has no money on it. And I'm going to swipe it like a squeegee up and down, side to side, diagonal to the right, diagonal to the left, and then one more time to get rid of those card marks, just very lightly to make it nice and smooth. Now this is going to be the inside of the cylinder. I'll do the outside smoothing when it's actually on the cylinder, when it's on the tube. All right. So this side, that's this flappy side that people wanted to tape down, that's going to be the side that goes down against the clay, and then the clay is going to wrap around. I've got this big overlap here. So I'm going to take my knife, a fettling knife, and cut through both layers. And remove that excess, and remove this excess. And now I'm going to slip and score. Where's my toothbrush? There it is. Slip and score this side. This clay is so wet I probably don't even really need to do this, but it's good to do in general. And now I'm going to smooth over that seam. And now is when I'm going to smooth the outside of this cylinder. Take my excess clay and set that aside. So to do that, once again, I'm just going to damply dampen it on the whole surface. Take my card and bend it, and compress and smooth the outside. And now I've got a cylinder. If I'm making a cave for my fish tank, I'd just about be done. But what if I wanted to make a mug? First I'm going to do is cut the top and bottom of this to be level. Okay, so I want to be perpendicular to the tube, and I'm just going to roll it. This clay is so soft that I'm leaving fingerprints in it, just trying to pick it up and move it. But it's okay, because the cylinder is a fairly strong structure. You know, if I try to make a sheet of paper stand up on its end, it's going to be very wobbly. But if I roll it into a cylinder, it can stand up. All right, now this side. I'm actually shivering because it's so cold. Remove that excess. So here comes the magic part. When I told you not to tape the paper, it's because I want to be able to slide out my cardboard tube or pool chemicals. Take the inside part of that paper and just twist and peel. This clay is so sticky it's not going to want to come off, is it? All right. Okay, almost. Do it from this side. There we go. There we go. And that came out. Now, because that is a cylinder, it'll actually stand up pretty well on its own. Okay? If I want to make this a mug, it needs a bottom. Take all this clay. It's going to need a bottom, it's going to need a handle. This might be too wet to put a handle on there because the weight of the handle would pull, slump the side. So this might be the part of the project where I need to just set it aside for a while to dry. So once again, I'm going to pat this flat. I'm not even going to use the roller for this. I am still going to smooth it though. With the card. This is one of those plastic cards. This is one of those cardboard cards I like. I don't like those. I need one that's solid plastic. They just don't make gift cards like they used to. Need more space too. So this will get out some of the bumps and make it more uniform as well. Now that's way too big for the bottom of this, so instead of cutting and trying to make this the exact right size, I'm just going to slip and score what I think is the right size. And take this and drop it on. Give it a little wiggle, make sure it sticks. And I'm going to lift it around the cylinder so that it adheres to the bottom real well. And if I can reach in there, I can smooth that inside seam as well, maybe even add a little coil to that inside seam, but I don't think it's going to be necessary on this, plus I can't reach it well. And then cut off the excess, just tracing around the bottom here. And then removing it, hey, now I've got a cup. And this could be the start of a toothbrush holder, a pencil holder, or a drinking glass, or a drinking cup. Or I could put a handle on it and make it into a mug, which is what I'm going to do. But first, if I'm going to drink out of this, I don't want sharp squared edges. I want it to be nice and rounded. So I'm just taking my sponge and softening those corners. All right, move that aside a little bit. So, clean that up. To make my handle, I'm going to start with a thick coil. Now there's a million different ways to make a handle. I'm going to show you three maybe. I'm going to make a coil, but I'm going to make it thinner on one side and thicker on the other, kind of like a carrot, a long skinny carrot. Now this could be a handle in itself, but if you have a cylindrical handle, it'll turn in your hand and make it harder to handle. So I'm going to take the whole thing and drop it. And what that did was flatten one side, so that when I hold it in my hand, it's wider, it doesn't spin in my hand. And if it didn't flatten enough, I can just drop it again and drop it a third time. And to make this look more like a pulled handle, I'm doing a fake pulled handle. I'm going to take my sponge, lay it over top of this. These two fingers are going to guide my hand along the sides of the coil, and my index finger is going to push down in the middle. Just like that, to make a little groove down the center. It starts to look pretty nice. Now this is way too big for a handle for this, so I'm going to pick which section of this I want to use. cut it off. I'm not going to cut the bottom just yet. Now, if I were to, pretend this is the edge I'm using, if I were to put this on and then smudge that clay on to get a good join there, I'm going to end up with a thin spot around the top edge of the handle. Where's the camera? Can't see it with the light in there. I don't want to have that thin area there. So what I need to do is thicken up the clay up here. And to do that, I'm just going to hold it, try to get my index finger and thumb as parallel as possible, like that, and just tap it. And that kind of spreads the clay out and gives me some clay for joining that doesn't take away from the thickness of the handle. See how that? We're going to get it in the light, but in view too. See how it thickened up the top? All right, now I'm not going to join this now because, like I said, this is too wet. I'm going to give this a little time to set up. I might even hit it with a heat gun, maybe thaw out my fingers at the same time. But the shape that I want is kind of like a question mark, okay? And I'll join this sticking straight out of the side, and it'll come down in a nice graceful curve, and then this part will stick flat to the side. So I'm just going to set this down in a little arch, and it's not going to fall over, it's not going to deform out of that arch, because an arch is another structurally strong form. So we're using the form of it to add to the strength of it. There's something elegant about that. What else could I make out of a cylinder? Well, I'm going to just run through and make a few more cylinders, and I'll do that in time lapse so you don't have to sit through that whole process again. So I'll see you back here in a minute. All right, let me show you the results. So this is the mug I made. It's a very large mug, but I like lots of coffee. And I might do some decorative stuff on that because it's kind of a little bit boring right now. I did say I was going to show you another style of handle. So what I did was I cut just a strip out of a larger slab. It's the same thickness as the mug itself. And then this could then be joined sticking upwards like this, so it's flat surface to flat surface, and same on the bottom like that. Or it could be joined edgewise like that handle is, so it goes straight out and then down. Or it could even be joined like that, and that's kind of a cool handle. Now I personally like handles that taper, so, well, not stuck like this. It's hard to do this one-handed. So I did make it slightly wider at the top and slightly narrower at the bottom. Not even really all that dramatically, but it mimics the way a pulled handle looks. And this one's not really a pulled handle, but a fake pulled handle. So you have some options with handles. Sometime I'll show you how to do a pulled handle, but that's a little bit advanced for where we are now. Okay, the second one I made, I decided to close up the top and the bottom of the cylinder, turn it on its side, give it some feet, give it a little handle at the top, and then cut a wavy line to make we call these a puzzle box because the lid fits on like a puzzle piece. The reason that it needs a wavy line is so that when you pick it up, it's got something to grab onto, and it doesn't just, if you make a flat pot with a flat lid, it'll just slide right off. So this is kind of a neat way to make it so that it won't slide off in any direction. And once this is dry, I'm going to clean up those boogery edges because they're not very pleasant right now, but it's not quite firm enough for me to do that without risking deforming it. All right, and then the last one that I made a third cylinder, and this, if you don't know what this is what is this? This is called a dice tower. So for any of you who are into tabletop role-playing games where you have to roll dice, you can drop your dice in there, and you can see I made a little ramp going whoop, another one going whoop, and then the last one at the bottom going whoop right into this little dish at the bottom to hold it. And so when you drop your dice in here, they go clangle, 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 and then they come out and are caught down here, so they're not rolling across the room and you have to chase them. And then I decided to make it look like a log, so I gave it some texture, some little chips taken out, and then some little mushroomy thingies there. So that's just 3 ideas, and all of those kept the cylindrical form. Another option would be actually to once you take it off of the tube and you take the paper out of it, to then further manipulate it, you know, squish it, not all the way squished because then you lose your structure, but you know, you could make it more oval, or you could make it, you know, tapered, or put dents and, you know, push out from the inside. I kind of made dents like this right here. I could have gone further with that, really changed the form, or could go from the inside and make protrusions going out. So you've got endless possibilities. And I personally can't wait to see what you come up with. See you next time. Someone told me they missed seeing my dog in the videos, and since I made this video at home, there's my Jackie boy. Being so lazy. He's a good boy though. Alright, see you later.